Welcome. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. Today I'm going to give my opinion on how to prevent flood damage along the Mississippi River system. I'm going to discuss engineering tactics that engineers use to reduce flooding, tactics that include widening and deepening the river channel, realignment, and resectioning. I'd like to start with just a little background information about the Mississippi. It's the fourth largest river system in the world. Its total length is about 2,340 miles. It's responsible for draining about 40% of the continental United States, which is about 1.25 million square miles. And you can see in the map there the area that it drains is responsible for draining. The United States annually spends about $2 billion a year to repair flood damage along the Mississippi. So it's a very costly river. As an example of the destruction it can have, I think most of you guys remember the flood of 1993. The Midwest states received about 200 to 350% greater rain amounts than their average from April 1st to the end of August. Farmland, towns, transportation routes were destroyed. More than 50,000 homes were damaged or destroyed during the flood. The government estimated the economic damage was up close to $20 billion at the cost. So the first tactic is widening or deepening the river channel. You kind of see in the picture there, they just go in and they dredge out the banks, and it increases the amount of flow the river can handle. Thus, it reduces the risk of flooding because it can handle more water. This project, this type of tactic is more for smaller stuff. Something the size of Mississippi, it's not feasible. It's way too large of a river. You'd have to have access the entire length of the river. And so you might be wondering, why not widen or deepen the channel by major cities like St. Louis or Davenport or further on down the river? Well, the best way to explain that is it kind of creates a reservoir without a dam. You're going to have a higher rate of water flowing in. It's going to fill up almost like a lake, and then the rate coming in is going to be higher than going out, and you're just going to be putting the problem further on, and you're going to amplify the problem for towns further down the river. So if you're going to do it, you have to do the whole thing. To do it would be very expensive, tons of manpower, and just impractical. It's just not possible for a river the size of Mississippi. The next tactic is realignment, and this removes meanders within the river. It shortens the river and allows the water to flow faster. Common theme, reducing the risk of flooding. The problem with this is the faster flowing water is going to jeopardize your dikes, levees, and dams already in place on the river for flood control. It's going to erode them. So you're kind of defeating what you're doing. You're going to solve one problem, but jeopardize your other infrastructure along the river. Another problem that you kind of see in the picture, the Mississippi is actually fairly straight from a river standpoint, and there's not a ton of meanders. It's not looping clear out into Illinois, way back into Missouri. So it's pretty straight already. And then I think the biggest issue is you can see St. Louis, Davenport. There's all the towns and towns and cities nestled in these meanders. So you have obstacles, and you'd be going right through the heart of St. Louis and that's one of the biggest meanders on the river. So those reasons alone, it's not a good choice. The third one is called resectioning, and this uses concrete or granite or like riprap along the banks, and this reduces the amount of friction between the water and the bank, and once again it allows the water to flow faster. As you're already probably thinking, to do this, you'd have to do both sides of the bank. That's almost 4,700 miles. It'd be like paving a 4-lane interstate from Maine to California. The amount of cost that would be, and you're dealing with, it's not a flat slope, and you've got to have, once again, the access to the river. You can't do it. It's too much. And then with this one also, there's an environmental risk due to the fact that when the water's flowing faster, it doesn't allow the sediment to drop on the bottom. You can see in the pictures, it flows out into the Gulf, and two things will occur. For a while, this will work, but eventually that sediment will build up and it'll choke out the river. So you're going to be backing the river up because it's going to have a harder time flowing out. So you're going to be causing flooding that way. And then also, it doesn't allow sunlight to penetrate into the Gulf, so your marine life, your coral, and your seagrasses are going to suffer. These are just all things that engineers they have to manage when choosing the right thing. So, what is the best course of action? To me, the simplest and the best course of action, and the cheapest, most certainly, is just respect the power, respect the river, respect nature. You know, I think sometimes people don't, and I think we need to heighten the awareness of the dangers of building in floodplains and what can happen. And I'd also like to see stricter laws on floodplain zoning to control construction within these floodplains. Kind of a quick story on that. In Ames, Super Walmart was built, and where it was designed to lay, the back corner was in a floodplain that had prohibited all building. And to get around this, Walmart decided, the construction engineers decided to just cut off that back corner. So it's a square that's just angled and it's out of the floodplain, and the laws are abided by. Well, in 2008 it flooded along with all the other businesses on Duff. So all your boxes are floating, and you know, a lot of those other businesses are already there, but I'd like to see, you know, in the future, you know, don't allow for building in these areas, because it's only a matter of time before they're going to have a flood. It's inevitable. To kind of sum up here, and I think it does the best, it's a quote by Mark Twain. It says, "The Mississippi River will always have its own way. No engineering skill can persuade it to do otherwise." So, thank you.